Welcome everyone to the campaign kickoff for Theresa Kohlhoff. We're so glad you could join us in this virtual format. In the midst of a global pandemic, safety is priority number one. So we appreciate the fact we can gather in this way. For some of you, this may be your first time to a virtual campaign kickoff. For others, it might be your first time attending a campaign kickoff period. Regardless, we're thrilled that you're able to join us for the launch of Theresa's campaign. First, a few housekeeping notes. You will notice that you've been muted upon entry, but please make sure that you stay muted. You should be able to see the microphone icon in the bottom left of your screen, and it should have a red line through it. Also, for those of you who dialed in by phone only, please make sure your phone is on mute. So if you would like to take a moment to make sure you're muted, thank you for doing that. Also, there's a chat function, which some of you I see have found, which allows you to ask questions and comment as the program progresses. Feel free to post a comment or question and keep an eye out as we will be sharing links throughout the program. Okay, I think that about wraps up the housekeeping items, but please do post in the chat box if you think of something we haven't covered. My name is Valdez Bravo, and I'll be serving as the MC today. I am a native Oregonian, an Army veteran, and the former vice chair of the Democratic Party of Oregon. I'm also Latino, and my grandmother was an enrolled member of the Standing Rock Sioux. So I would like to take this time for a land acknowledgement. Today, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we are dialing in from is the traditional homelands of a diverse array of indigenous tribes and bands. Hundreds of indigenous communities made their homes in what came to be known by colonizers as Oregon. This land is still home to vibrant native communities representing over 400 different tribal nations. We recognize indigenous peoples as the traditional stewards of this land and acknowledge the enduring relationship between the land and the people since time immemorial. It is also important to move beyond acknowledgement and to reflect on our own history that brought us to this place. We are responsible for understanding the history of colonization and genocide of indigenous people, and to commit to learning, building relationships, and to support indigenous sovereignty, priorities, and actions. Thank you. I was so honored to be asked by my friend Theresa Kohlhoff to MC this event, as I am a big supporter. I met Theresa during her race for Lake Oswego City Council back in 2016. Her campaign excited me then, and her campaign excites me now. I followed her service on City Council, and I always admire her speaking her truth during what have often been very dark times these past 4 years. Whatever the important issue, whether it's part of the local or national conversation, Theresa always demonstrates leadership in a kind, smart, collaborative, and effective way. I'm honored to be able to be a part of her campaign for mayor. My family moved to Lake Oswego from Portland in 2019, and I was grateful knowing that Theresa was on that council, working hard to represent people like you and me, people who care about economic, social, and racial justice, and ensuring that the environment is protected for our children. Theresa has been a lawyer for almost 40 years, helping people and being their rock in times of crisis. She is a Renaissance woman of many talents, a community activist, a volunteer, and a grandmother. I am so excited that Theresa is now a candidate for Lake Oswego mayor. Now, before we get to hear from some very exciting speakers, I would like to recognize some of the local elected leaders joining this campaign kickoff. Thank you to State Representative Andrea Salinas, State Representative Rachel Prusak, State Representative Alyssa Kinney-Geyer, Clackamas County Commissioner Martha Schrader, Clackamas County Commissioner Ken Humberston, Milwaukee Mayor Mark Gamba, Milwaukee City Councilor Angel Faulkner, Milwaukee City Councilor Kathy Heisey, Beaverton City Councilor Lacey Beatty, Sandy City Councilor Jan Lee, Happy Valley City Councilor Brett Sherman, and Lake Oswego School Board members Neelam Gupta and Liz Hartman. Thank you all for being here. And of course, later in the program, you will be hearing from Dr. Shukri Osman and Senator Rob Wagner. So thank you all for attending this launch and for supporting Theresa Kohlhoff. Before we hear from our first speaker, here is a video from the next mayor of Lake Oswego.
Think about what you love about Lake Oswego. Our charming, elegant city is canopied with big trees. Our city is on the Willamette River, providing recreation and transport. Our lake is open to swimming and boating. Our trails, parks, and natural spaces are safe, healthy, and flourishing for walkers, bikers, and dogs. We are happy and prosperous, but we have even a brighter future that is for all. I'm Theresa Kohlhoff, and I'm running for mayor of Lake Oswego. Lake Oswego is one of Oregon's most livable cities, and I will lead us to an even brighter vision. During my time on the Lake Oswego City Council, I have fearlessly advocated for real solutions for everyone. I've been a lawyer for nearly 40 years, and I have used on council my lawyer skills of listening, analyzing, and negotiating, and will continue to do so as mayor. Most importantly, I am a grandmother. This particular role has taught me in a unique way to use my accumulated big heart, creativity, and wisdom for those coming to take my place. At a certain age, we come to know that the purpose of our lives now, the why, is these grandchildren and their opportunities. Lake Oswego needs a mayor who pursues the necessary steps to obtain economic housing for everyone. From seniors aging in place to workers living near their jobs and children near good schools. Pursues increased transportation opportunities as well as a transit-oriented development at Foothills. Absolutely insists we preserve our big trees. Prepares our citizens for any emergency, no matter the severity. Treats our climate crisis as the emergency it is. Advocates to the Council for a standing Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. Accomplishes goals by strengthening our connections with our neighbor cities, counties, and Greater Oregon. Moves Lake Oswego to become renowned for joy and grace, generosity of spirit. Yes, together we will build Lake Oswego so there is peace, health, and safety. We'll keep Lake Oswego in budget, but we will do more. Join me. I am Theresa Kohlhoff, and I'm running for mayor of Lake Oswego. Together, we are formidable.
That is the kind of vision we need for Lake Oswego. And to realize that vision, we need Theresa Kohlhoff for mayor. And now let's hear from our first speaker. Dr. Shukri Osman is a nephrology specialist in Tualatin, Oregon, and has over 24 years of experience in the medical field. She graduated from Oregon Health and Sciences University of Medicine Medical School in 1996. And she is affiliated with the medical facilities such as Legacy Meridian Park Medical Center and Providence Portland Medical Center. A member of the Emerge class of 2020, a program that trains women to run for elected office, Dr. Osman is more than a physician. She is a healer, a positive force, and a woman leader who will continue to be recognized within her community as someone who speaks authentically for them. She is from Somalia, a Muslim, and in Theresa's words, the essence of life itself. I introduce Dr. Osman.
Thank you for the kind and lovely introduction. My name is Shukri Osman. I'm a practicing physician specializing in nephrology. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm so excited for Theresa. I'm so excited for Lake Oswego. And I'm super thrilled to see all of you here today supporting Theresa to be the next mayor for our community. I think most of you who have lived here for a number of years also know that our community is changing, and it is changing for the better. Like the rest of Oregon, Lake Oswego is growing more diverse. And that is something to be celebrated, but it also needs to be nurtured. If all of us want our kids to feel at home in Lake Oswego, new families of all backgrounds, income levels, to feel at home here, then we need to elect that mayor or leader who sets that tone and shares those values at the highest level of leadership in our community. And that is the job of a mayor. And to put it differently, that is the opportunity for our next mayor. And like the rest of our country, we are at a very pivotal moment. The willingness to reflect on who we are now, on who we want to become, is pivotal. And with Theresa, we have the opportunity to elect a lifelong advocate, a passionate, progressive public servant with nearly 40 years of experience as an attorney, a community advocate, and a member of City Council. She's committed, dedicated, is willing to listen, to learn, and to lead with community alongside her. Theresa has the needed perspective to tackle the issues facing Lake Oswego and our region, such as affordable housing, transportation, the environment, and diversity and inclusion. That is why I support her. That is why I believe Theresa's win is win for Lake Oswego. We need more progressive women in elected office, and in particular, executive elected office. Please help me welcome my friend, my sister, and your next mayor of Lake Oswego, Theresa Kohlhoff.
Welcome. I thought you might want to know something about me and my beliefs at a 30,000-foot level if you were going to support me as mayor. So I get up early every morning, I make some coffee, and then begin to ask some softball questions like, what is the purpose of my life? What is important? What do I really think is the truth? I've been in a decades-long conniption fit with the Catholic Church, the church in which I was born and raised. So I'd pretty much missed the memo on Oscar Romero. A few years back, I read a small book on him and ran into this quote. The gospel is the great defender and proclaimer of all the great fundamental rights of the person. The fundamental right to food and water, shelter, protection, medicine, education, work, rest, freedom, respect, dignity, fullness of life. I jumped up, exuberant. This, in words of one syllable, was exactly and precisely what I believe. Further quibbles aside, Romero led me to rediscover the 7 social teachings of my girlhood. 1, every human being has inherent dignity. Poverty, hunger, and injustice prevent people from living in this dignity. 2, we realize our dignity and rights in relationships with others. 3, we have a right to participate in decisions and activities, but when our needs cannot thereby be met, government must intervene. 4, we stand with others. What affects one affects all. We are one human family regardless of any differences. 5, we take up the cause of the poor and vulnerable as our own. Poverty, its forms and effects, is unjust. 6, we have a right to participate in those institutions necessary for human fulfillment, such as work, education, and politics. 7, we have a duty to responsibly care for the earth's resources, which are for the good of all, not just for the rich. Is this radical? Is this extreme? Is it partisan? It's out of Scripture. It's out of literature. Dr. Maya Angelou said, quote, "I am human, therefore nothing human can be alien to me," end quote. So how does it happen that some have become diminished, isolated, and dehumanized? How did they become other? Become a giant dung beetle, as in Kafka's The Metamorphosis? It's out of my personal and lived experience. In 2008, I was in the hospital with a trifecta of critical health threats. I did not feel good at all. In walked this young, petite woman doctor who, even in the darkened room, somehow was intensely illuminated. She pointed out I was very sick. My first reaction was, good God, I'm in the hands of a 12-year-old. But then I felt it very keenly. I had a choice to live or die at that moment. I could relax my grip on life's struggles and fade away, or I could try. It was very evident what she wanted from me, life and my participation in regaining my health. I sighed internally and somewhat exhaustedly agreed to this partnership. I have never doubted that Dr. Shukri Osman and my willingness to be in a relationship with her saved my life that night. Human dignity, relationships, responsibility, participation, the unjustness of poverty, and care for the earth. These are such consequential values that they must never be trivialized with vapid, meaningless, surfacey messaging. All words, no passion, no actions, no revenue to back up the actions, no showing up for the hard work. Moving in closer, we're here now. Let me state the obvious. 2020 has been emotional, to say the least. What haven't we all been going through? A global health retreat, a financial collapse, then the igniting of a new civil rights movement, and now the resurgence of the virus. We all know this. We have left the shore. We are only midstream, headed for more change and a transformed landscape, only some of which we can do anything about. What are some of the change areas? How can we, through them, make our lives better? There are many, of course, but let's start with housing, transportation, preserving big trees, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. As an aside, you do see how these priorities are different aspects of the same core issues. Housing opportunities affordable for all is a racial issue. Having it near transit is key to coping with our impending climate collapse. The footprints of expensive mansions demand the removal of big trees, without which we will not be cool and our air will not be safe. Despite the average income of at least $100,000, approximately 10% of Lake Oswego students are on free or reduced lunch. The majority of our citizens enjoy the police policy of no call too small, while a minority experience the police as threatening, intimidating, and harassing. Finally, it is important to affirm that the city of Lake Oswego is not out there at City Hall. Electing me does not automatically define the change. To crib Gandhi, I must follow you if I am to be the mayor of your city. Our local government is us. It's us voting, participating, acting in elected offices, and being aware. I dare say it is proclaiming, defending, and procuring fundamental rights of the person. So very briefly, housing. Certainly select groups benefit from stable and low property taxes so they can get into and continue to live in their homes. The upside of this is naturally occurring affordable housing, meeting the needs of the 60 to 100% median income group. However, this stock is being demolished to make way for very, very large and very, very expensive houses, which fill up the lot, require the removal of big trees, and generally shelter fewer and fewer people. One of the most regressive moves of our council was not to institute a demolition tax. I would have supported that if it had gone towards affordable housing, but to designate it for park maintenance. We have a lot to do to meet the needs of the citizens already living in our city. Build a Metro Clackamas project on Boones Ferry, institute some level of inclusionary zoning, and enact a construction excise tax to help fund affordable housing would be good for starters. Transportation. For too long, we have viewed transportation as simply a matter of congestion, connectivity, and pedestrian safety. The pathways, safe routes to school nibbles. But the red alert is the absolute global imperative to drastically reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. Progressing at all will take city cooperation with the other governmental entities and personal relationships with their staff and electeds. I am, at present, the only councilor who is a member of or an alternate to the state, county, and regional leadership committees on land use and transportation. I show up for the hard work. Let me give you some examples of fatuous talk and no action. The extra transportation infrastructure caused by is supposed to be paid by law by the developer causing the new impacts. Recently, the majority of the council, including my presumed opponent, voted to reduce these charges by 70%. Beat the drum all you want for pathways and safe routes to school, but then he gave away the funding. Beat the drum of economic development and fiscal responsibility, but this vote lost the city about $80,000 from a large development on Cruiseway and Boones Ferry. Why should the cost of future, but not the profit, be placed on the backs of residents who have already paid through taxes, rates, and fees for the existing infrastructure that the developer just waltzes in and gets for free? Jeff Goodman and I were the two minority votes. You can be sure I will raise this revenue fairness issue upon becoming mayor. Preservation of big trees. It is long overdue that we are grateful for and respectful of our big trees. The bigger the tree, the more significant it is to stormwater management, shading, habitat, and air. Changes must be made to the development code because the city tree code is an abysmal failure in preserving these big trees. Whatever tree is in the footprint of a proposed development, unless it is the one and the only tree on the lot, is cut down. Boom. Somewhere, the idea has taken root that a big tree can be remediated with a small tree or a small fee. It cannot. Yet, yes, people have property rights, but far more importantly, we have a climate emergency, and protection of our environment must be a higher priority. The single thing that Lake Oswego can do to address climate change and has complete control of is to save the big trees. As mayor, just as councilor, I will be the Lorax. I can assure you this is a hill I am prepared to die on. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Dr. Alicia Moreland Capuya in the textbook Training for Change taught that being trauma-informed builds greater capacity for empathy, improves our cultural responsivity. Quote, empathy is about the capacity to imagine, to feel, and to make a demonstrable shift as a result of that feeling. Systems change when people change, end quote. Her prescription to impact systems for change: get people into the feeling space. Here in Lake Oswego, I suggest we acknowledge and really feel our common humanity. I suggest we unite to change our harmful systems, which are presently based on some have, some don't have, quote, power, esteem, status, and/or equal access to societal resources, end quote. At the moment, there is a great appetite for replacing these unjust systems. As Dr. Moreland Capulla suggests, let's listen to the human sound of Trayvon Martin's father grieving, not the sound of our many words about many things. Then let's act. In short, little moving forward is about me. I do have a vision, which I'm sharing, but it will happen because we all agree to act in solidarity for the common good, for our common home. We commit to generosity of spirit. We validate each other's experiences. We accept abundance. There is enough for everyone. We are joyful and grateful for the natural beauty of our city. We actually prioritize meeting our needs. We bring everyone along. We leave no one behind. In closing, recently Mike and I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. What leapt out at me at the end was the fact that while Katara was a waterbender, her brother Sokka didn't bend at all. Only Aang, the 12-year-old monk and an airbender, would have the eventual capacity to bend in all dimensions: earth, fire, water, and air. But this didn't matter. It wasn't necessary that everyone was able to bend. Together, they had all they needed to confront the exploitative Fire Nation. This is what I meant when I started this campaign a year ago. We together are formidable. It was the first thing that came to mind and is what I leave you with now. To say there is no conflict out there right now on the local issues is to have put your mask on over your eyes instead of your nose and mouth. No one who has a stake in keeping our city essentially an affluent enclave is simply going to wave us by. The shared societal values we started with are extremely threatening to them. We can see this in their desperate attempts to control, to divert, and block our new path forward. And maybe even more deceptively, we can see this in their use of vague, progressive terms, with no specific energy behind any of their proposals, and worse, no revenue. Now, they could pick us off if we are isolated and without backup. If, however, we stand together, confident, prepared, and strong, together we will proclaim, defend, and procure our fundamental human rights. That's why we're here. That's what's important. Call it radical, call it extreme. That's what I really think is the truth. And I invite you to embrace it as well. We together are formidable.
Wow, thank you, Theresa. I'm so grateful that you're stepping up to run for office. More than ever, we need this kind of leadership, experience, and vision to move us forward towards a just, equitable, inclusive, and sustainable future. And hearing Theresa's speech really inspires me. Next, I'd like to welcome one of Lake Oswego's favorite sons, State Senator Rob Wagner, who will tell us how he can support Theresa in fighting for these ideals. Senator Wagner is a native of Lake Oswego and has been long active in fighting on the right side of the important issues facing our community, both locally and statewide. A sense of dedication to public service was instilled in Rob, at a young age by his parents, who both remain active in their community. Senator Wagner was elected to the Lake Oswego School Board in 2017 and served as the board chair from June 2019 to June 2020. In June 2018, Senator Wagner was elected to represent Oregon Senate District 19, which includes the communities of Tualatin, Lake Oswego, West Lynn, River Grove, Durham, and Southwest Portland. Having previously served as the State Senate Majority Whip, Senator Wagner currently serves as the Senate Majority Leader and chairs several important committees. Senator Wagner has played a key role in the statewide budgeting process, emphasizing fiscal responsibility and strategic investments for critical programs statewide, while simultaneously listening to the needs of his community and of our community and translating concerns into action and results. And as an ally of the labor movement, Senator Wagner helped co-found the Oregon Labor Candidate School, a training program to elect union members who run for office. Senator Wagner and his wife, Lori, share 4 wonderful teenagers, 1 in junior high and 3 in high school, and live just down the street from his parents here in Lake Oswego. So all that is to say, Rob, like us, is very invested in Lake Oswego's future, both as an elected official, but as a father and a community member. Friends, it is my pleasure to introduce State Senator Rob Wagner.
Well, thank you so much, Valdez. And Theresa, wherever you are on my screen here, thank you so much for that incredibly prescient, important, framed thoughts that are going to be significant for this election cycle, but even more significant given the challenges that our communities are facing heading into this next few months and the next 4 years ahead. A couple of things. First, I will note that I'm wearing I was telling Valdez this earlier, this was what I used as my Lake Oswego School Board tie. If you notice, it's politically with the Northside Laker colors and the Southside Pacer colors, both appropriately. And you will note that in all of Theresa's literature too, she perfectly harnesses no Northside or Southside rivalry. Am I right, Gary Stein? When you said that something about a favorite son, I think about when I walk into New Seasons now with my mask on and my own mother doesn't recognize me, and she would immediately assume that her favorite son was my brother Scotty. So I don't think that gets me too outside of the driveway. I'm active in a lot of campaigns, as you can imagine. Given my job right now in the Oregon State Senate, we're working diligently on trying to win back a walkout-proof majority in the Oregon legislature so that when our colleagues on the other side decide not to show up to work to be able to balance the budget for our schools or address public health in this time of absolute crisis or work on progressive legislation as it relates to safety in our communities and holding police accountable. We can't forget that right here in our community, we have an incredible opportunity and responsibility to elect a mayor who is going to be a visionary and who's going to partner with us at the state level to be able to set the tone for what our community needs for the next 4 years and beyond. 4 years ago, I cannot believe it's been this long, but I had a sit-down conversation when we could actually have sit-down conversations with a relatively recent, a graduate from the Emerge Oregon program, Theresa Kohlhoff at Blue Moon Coffee down at when it was on Boone's Ferry Road, and talked her into why she was such a great candidate and needed to step forward at this time and run for city council. A few weeks later, we were at a law firm in the Mercantile area and enjoying this incredible food from Palm Beach. And I know many of you were there celebrating this incredible kickoff. And Theresa ran with fire and fury and came through that election cycle. And I know how many of us remember where we were on election night 4 years ago in November at the Lake Cinemas when the dark shroud was covering the country. One of the very few bright spots that evening for me was knowing that our city was in such good, capable, passionate hands with Theresa Kohlhoff as one of our city councilors. She has taken that energy and that fire and that wisdom and that passion and has excelled. It is absolutely her time, and it is our city's time to do everything that we can to make sure that Theresa Kohlhoff is the next mayor for the city of Lake Oswego. I know that she's not running alone. There's an incredible list of folks that are coming along that are putting their names in the next couple of months, and we'll be firing on all cylinders trying to get folks there. But I truly believe from my core fiber that her capacity, her thoughtfulness, and her boldness in this time in the world right now is what we need and is what our community needs. And with that, I will also say that as somebody who spends a lot of time out there working with candidates and working on campaigns, Theresa has shown up for us and she's showing up for us. We need to show up for her. And so as much as I know folks are swept away by her thoughtfulness and vision, we need to show up for her in ways starting today and over the next several months until that election that are going to get her across the finish line. And so today, I wanted to let you know, and I think we've got a chat feature here. And Valdez, should I turn it back over to you to do this, or should I go ahead and put the roll? Okay. Well, this last election cycle, I think we raised over $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 collectively to be able to work on candidate races, and we're going to need that again with Theresa at the top of the ticket. Normally, at a fundraiser event or a kickoff, what I would have you do, and I'm going to have you do it today anyway, is to just take a brief pause and close your eyes. Don't worry, don't close your, I'll listen to the sound of my voice. Close your eyes. Walk with me here for a second. This is a trust fall. This is a trust fall. There's no, don't. All right, I'm seeing lots of eyes closed. Several people are going through this exercise. Okay, now imagine that we are actually all together and we were able to give Theresa a hug. We were able to share a drink and raise a glass. You would have had me standing in that room with your eyes closed exactly like you're doing right now. And I would have said, you knew this was coming. I'm going to ask you for a number. Now what I'm going to do in this incredible pandemic moment is to ask you, think of that number. You know what it is. Double it. Double it in your mind's eye right now. Now open your eyes. And what I want you to do is go into the chat box right now. I'm going to write down my number. My wife, Lori, also an incredibly proud graduate of Merge, Oregon, are going to do $300 as an initial kickoff right now to invest in Theresa Kohlhoff's election. What I would love is if people could jump in that chat right now and make an incredible investment in the future of our city. They're pouring in, Valdez.
Make it rain, Rob. Make it rain.
Woo!
Thank you, everybody. This is great.
This is fantastic. Ken Humbertson's giving some sort of amount that needs new math. It was like a, what was Tom Lehrer's song, New Math?
Representative Kenny Geyer had a good point. If you give $100 or more or over $100, it'll show up in OrStar. So
that's right, 101.
101.
By 101, you can go to 202, and that would be even better received. It's fantastic.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Keep the momentum going there, Rob. Do you have some final words to wrap up before I transition back and get ready to close this up here?
I would just encourage folks to take a virtual selfie, share your passion and your support for Theresa. She's going to need it. It's hard enough to go out there and knock doors in the rain, but to be calling voters and doing the things that we're going to have to do that are not traditional types of campaigning this fall. Just, keep sending that really good energy and, keep talking to folks. People are really paying attention right now online. And if we can create a lot of buzz coming out of the gate here, I think this is going to go a long way to Theresa really solidifying herself as that front runner and making sure that she's got the support that she needs to get herself across the line.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Senator Rob Wagner. I mean, you do the Zoom applause, like we've been doing these past couple of months. It is kind of interesting being at these events where, normally after I think Teresa's speech, you heard a standing ovation, and on Zoom, we're all taking part in a different kind of way. But I'm just so glad that everyone's here, and thank you to Dr. Osman for your remarks, and Senator Wagner for yours as well. So again, thank you so much to Senator Wagner for that great call to action. This is our chance to make Lake Oswego a model for inclusivity, equity, and a sustainable, forward-thinking city. And this is why we need Theresa Kohlhoff for mayor. We need a mayor who will fight for us, and that is why right now, you and me, we need to fight for her. So we thank you for all joining Teresa's campaign to support her in whatever way you can. I'm seeing some very supportive folks in the chat box there, very generous. Thank you so much. As Theresa says, we together we are formidable. Thank you all for attending this campaign launch. And please mark your calendars for Sunday, July 12th at 3 p.m. to join Theresa for a virtual town hall where she will host a Q&A to hear your questions and to hear your ideas for our community. Theresa is a true servant leader, and she wants to know what your priorities are. A link to register will be posted in the chat box, and information is posted on Teresa's website and on social media. We hope to see you there. And make sure, speaking of social media, make sure to follow Theresa on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on all the latest updates from her campaign. So with that, thank you all so much for attending. Thank you for supporting Theresa Kohlhoff. Thank you for being a part of this moment where we elect a mayor like Theresa Kohlhoff to lead Lake Oswego into the future. We appreciate you. We hope you're safe out there. Thank you all again for attending, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.